Hey, Patrick McGinnis here, hanging out with the cast and crew of Ira and Allison's Murder Mystery, and I'm sitting down with Brian Donohue, who plays Bernie Sharp in Art Productions' latest feature film. Hey Brian, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well.
So tell me a little bit about Bernie Sharp and how he fits into this story.
Bernie Sharp is he's a movie producer who has worked with Ira in the past on a couple of kind of zany and off-the-wall pictures. I believe the first one was the Rainforest Experience is what they called it. And at this point, he's kind of a vehicle to kind of show where Ira's mental state is, I think, to when he comes in and asks him to write a movie about dental floss.
Once the movie begins, things start to unravel pretty quickly. How do you deal with that inside your character of starting to kind of lose control and just seeing the events of the movie take place?
That's actually the one thing that I was very, very careful with on Bernie is he's one of those guys that really doesn't lose control, no matter how much he may appear like he is. He's always got his mental faculties going, which is even when the situation is as out of control as it possibly gets and everyone's running around crazy, his only thought is, how can I make money off of this? And that's the driving thought for him throughout the entire picture. So as much as things go chaotic around him, as long as he sees dollar signs in the chaos cloud, he doesn't really care how chaotic it gets. In fact, the more chaotic, the better.
So did you do anything to prepare for this role? Did you have any characters that influenced the making of Bernie Sharp?
Most definitely. There were a couple of them that really jumped out to me the first time I read the character on the page. I'm a big fan of the Californication series on Showtime, and for the life of me, the name of the character always escaped me. I think it's Charlie, but he is the writer's literary agent. And he's as much as he is a really good agent, he just has that level of inappropriateness, that gruffness of just willing to say whatever he needs to say to get his point across, and his time is the most valuable in the room. So if you waste his time, you're worthless. But the moment he starts wasting your time, you should just be willing to take it because he is who he is. I also kind of decided to build a little bit more depth into it by, how does someone who is as abrasive as Bernie get to be as abrasive as he was? So I created an overbearing mother in his background that taught him, if you want your moment in the spotlight, you have to shout the other people down and be willing to be louder and more obnoxious than they are, or you're never going to get your point across.
So Bernie was a full, complete character. I mean, you thought things into the backstory and came up with a solid, base and then acted upon that in the film.
Absolutely, absolutely. I find that's the only way for me that it works, is to know who this person is, because I would react very differently to a lot of these situations than Bernie would. When he finds out the core of the plot, it would scare the crap out of me, but the only thought I could think of in my head was Bernie thought it was hilarious. He looked at it and went, nobody's possibly going to believe this. I can't make any money off of it, so let's just have fun with it. And, I would never have come to that decision on my own if I hadn't taken the time to figure out who Bernie was as a person before walking onto the set.
A lot of strong choices were made in the film. How do you feel how free you were when working with the director, Ryan Will?
Oh, I had absolutely no constraints as far as making decisions. If a take didn't work, they were very quick to say, that didn't work, but I never really felt like there was something I couldn't try if it felt right for my character. I never felt like anyone told me who the character was. I had full free reign to decide how I decided to come at each different character choice. They were on the page, but I had my own method to going into each one. I felt very free with those.
Have you ever worked with Ryan before?
This would be my first time working with Ryan. I had an audition for another project of theirs that didn't come to fruition, but this is my first time actually working with him.
And what do you think of the team here at Art Productions?
Honestly, I think that it was a really great experience working with all of them. As much as people, they talked to me early on about the fact this isn't a professional crew and I needed to be prepared for that, but there was equal parts professionalism and ability to have fun on the set. You didn't feel like you had to hide in a corner,
and that's important.
Exactly. You have to feel really comfortable with the people you're working with, and especially the people that you're working for. So I had a great time.
Awesome, awesome. Now, a lot of crazy stuff happens in the film. What for you was your favorite scene?
For Joe, I'm going to have to say my favorite scene was getting to hit the director in the crotch with a ball, which was the decision of the producer to do so. Hearing everyone in an entire room drop down laughing with something you just kind of did offhand is a very satisfying sensation.
It's always great when something works in the moment. It's likely to work on screen as well, so it's very encouraging when that
Absolutely.
happens. Do you have any challenging acting moments that you were a bit nervous for, or you felt you had to gear up for when it came time to do?
Honestly, it was one of those smaller, more innocuous sequences that Bernie's in. But I had a sequence where I'm supposed to be mainly speaking to somebody on a phone who's not even there. And for me, the concept of trying to create this character of Marv that you never actually see, and the only description you ever get from him is what Bernie chooses to let you in on. So I kind of had to flesh out this whole character and how do I react with him and how do I feel about him, because every one of those decisions is going to be played out in the way that I speak to him and the lines that I choose to say, what language I use or choose not to. And having to keep all of those things in mind and still at the same time be in the room with the rest of the people was a bit of a challenge for me.
That's very interesting. We talked a little bit about the team dynamic, but specifically talking about Joe and Ryan, how did you think they worked together, and how did you like working with those two as a team?
I think they work really well together. They kind of remind me more of people who are related than those who are friends. I mean, they bicker like brothers on the set, and you know, we got kind of an idea as to where they were at when, you know, certain comments were thrown back and forth between the two of them that you wouldn't necessarily say to someone who, you know, you like a lot.
But all with a dose of love.
Absolutely, absolutely. At the end of the day, you know, the two of them were definitely on the same team, if not always necessarily on the same page. But they were always very quick to get back to the same page together, and you know, we knew exactly where both of them were coming from, and it was a very safe atmosphere to work in.
Very good. Now, we talked a lot about how you developed the character, but what were your initial thoughts when first reading the script?
Honestly, the very first two words that came to my mind were, "Oh God," because I got the message from Joe, and his exact words were, "I've got a character who's perfect for you." And so the moment I started reading the character, I kind of went, okay, what is my first instinct on this guy? And just the moment the voice started coming to me and the character started coming to me, it just kind of clicked home exactly what he was looking for. And it was just, I mean, it looked like a character that was going to be just so much fun to go for. And the moment he told me you can't go too big, I've never really gotten that opportunity. You know, being a big guy, I'm normally told to pull back. The moment I got a character, it was like, you can't be big enough. You can't move enough or be overpowering enough. It was like,
it's very liberating.
Exactly.
As an actor. Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about the casting process. What was it like coming in and auditioning for people you've known?
It's a little bit more nerve-wracking, actually, auditioning for people that know you. Because when, you know, someone doesn't know you, you can kind of put on a different air of professionalism that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do with someone who's seen you in, you know, I mean, I've done a lot of musical theater with Joe in the past, and we've been, you know, together at the, you know, best and the worst. So you can't really put on that fake shell that a lot of us like to put on.
You have to be genuine.
Exactly. So it's a little bit more nerve-wracking to go in there and go, well, I'm putting myself out there for people that I know, and they're gonna, you know, they're not only gonna judge me on that, but what they know of me in the past. It's like, ooh, is that good enough? So I mean, I have to say there was a fair bit of nerves coming in here, especially auditioning for Ryan and, you know, Joe via email or what have you, because I didn't know exactly where I was gonna stand after that.
No, you got the part, and a hilarious one. What was it like working with other members of the crew, the DP, the sound person, other people that Joe and Ryan hired on to the film, and how was it like acting in front of them and just conversing with them off set?
First walking onto the set, it was really daunting when you walk in and see an entire crew. I've always been the one on the crews. You know, I was a theater tech, so I was always the one hiding in the corner. And the moment, you know, everyone started focusing on me, it was a little bit overwhelming. But they were, I mean, every single one of them was very personable. They were really nice. They were really, it seemed focused on making sure that we were all comfortable so we could get the best performances out of ourselves. You know, they always explained what was going on, why things were being done the way that they were being done, and even when people started to get tired and there was a little bit of that sarcastic edge to it, it was all done in good humor. So it was a very, very, very good experience for me and something I would love to do again.
A positive set always makes a total difference than being on a set where everybody's negative and not wanting to be there.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You can't possibly work at your best if you just want to go home. If the whole entire day you feel uncomfortable, you know, everyone's making you feel like either you're second rate or what have you. It's just so much easier to get into a character and to play a character when you've got someone rooting for you after every shot.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's always a challenge working in independent film because of the restrictions you're placed under with budget and schedule. Tell me what it was like working 20-hour days.
20-hour days. Honestly, it's something I've dealt with in the past through my musical theater days, so I kind of just took it in stride. You know, you start getting around the middle of the day and you start to flag and your energy's just not up there. I think the biggest problem for me was being able to get my energy level back up after the inevitable hours of, you know, waiting, and then you get yourself all sedentary, and then all of a sudden you have to be back up and, you know, bouncing off the walls again. So I'd say that was probably the biggest challenge with the long days, is continuing to bring the energy back up to where it was last time to give a consistent performance throughout the day. The hours themselves, I pretty much came in ready for that, expecting that we were going to be there even
And is
longer.
there anything that you do to prepare yourself for? I was asking Heidi this and she said coffee, coffee, coffee. Is there anything that you do to prepare knowing that you're going to go in and work for 20 hours straight?
Honestly, my biggest secret is trying to find quiet places throughout the day, even if I don't actually sleep, to just kind of close my eyes and decompress and kind of get my thoughts in order. You know, when you're around a lot of people all day, it can get really grating on your nerves.
Right.
So just finding that spot to center myself and take a few moments to just breathe. And yes, caffeine is definitely part of the equation. But just having that few minutes to find a place by yourself in that sea of craziness is just absolutely essential for me.
I believe it. Now, talking a little bit about offset, we said that onset was such a positive experience. What was the atmosphere like offset during these crazy days?
It was very, I mean, honestly, it was very calm. That's the biggest thing. You know, those of us who had gone off set, everyone was laying around. If there was any conversation being had, it was done through very quiet voices because we didn't want to bother anyone, you know, doing anything in the other room.
So very respectful.
Very much so, very much so. I mean, the cast in and of themselves, even though a lot of us didn't know each other all too well, I mean, we got along really well. Everyone was, even if there was discussion going on, it was normally, you know, script discussions or people running lines for another scene. So we had others stepping into characters to kind of give them lines and whatnot. It was just a very, I hate to keep using the word, but it was an extremely positive experience both on and off set, which is what made it so much fun for me.
And that's great. It's not always the case when working in independent film. Now that the film is over, is in the can, what are you focusing on in your personal life?
At the moment, actually, my personal life is focused on employment at the moment. Unfortunately, with the economy the way that it is, you know, the almighty dollar is king. But at the same time, I'm still trying to get back into the theatrical world. Now that I'm no longer a tech theater employee, I actually have the time to do so. And so part of my goal is to try and relocate my job back toward my home city so I can actually start doing some more performing.
Tell me a little bit more about how these independent films are shaping the future of Hollywood.
Well, honestly, it's us that are going to shape what the future of Hollywood looks like. Those of us that go to the cinema, those of us that still pay for movies and don't torrent them or download them online. And the independent film companies are the ones who are more likely to support films that are moving forward ideas and genres that we want to see more of.
As opposed to the same old formulas.
Absolutely. I mean, I read once that Hollywood put together a group of psychiatrists to come up with a formula for the perfect movie, and they haven't deviated from it since like the 1960s. We've become a new society where even attention deficit television, as I call it, has gotten shorter to the point where, you know, 30-second jump cuts are not unheard of in a children's show where you have 27 shots in a single 2-minute scene. And we've come to the point where the long establishing shot is slowly dying with the advent of keep it moving, keep people interested. We need people like these independent crews who stick to the old ways, who stick to what, you know, they believe as far as their story and their point that they want to tell, to keep Hollywood pure and keep it from becoming just more of the same dregs we've had before.
And touching back on to the team that Joe and Ryan has assembled here, what was it like working with Ryan now as an actor and the other actors who are in the cast?
Honestly, I had a lot of fun with all of them. Everyone was very true to their character, and it's a very rare person that you can literally push around, in the case of Ryan, and he will tell you, you didn't push me around enough. Not, you know, don't do that, you're making me look bad, you're embarrassing me. Just someone who's so completely dedicated to their character that being the meek person to be pushed around, he was perfectly fine with. And, you know, you had all of these different dynamics on set of all these different people, and every one of them reacted exactly the way I would have expected them to given stimuli, but at the same time, you still got those little surprises of, oh, I didn't realize that was part of your character. Okay, now I'm going to have to work that into my appraisal of you later on.
So things were always developing as the shooting was taking place.
Absolutely. It was a very organic process for me, learning all these little things that people had thrown into their characters. And being that I was around a lot more than I spoke, I had a lot more time to kind of judge the scene and see what was going on. And being that I decided Bernie was a very cerebral person to begin with, that was a large part of what my character was doing throughout most of the movie. Was just trying to figure out who was who and what was what, even if he was never going to solve the crime himself.
Interesting. Now moving into the ideal future, you said you're wanting to get into a lot of other theater, into more film. What would be the ideal role that you would like to play as an actor?
Ideal role that I would like to play as an actor? Well, I always had my big five of the musical theater, because that's what I've been doing since I was 19. They've changed a little bit since my musical training has changed since my voice has gotten lower. I always wanted to do Valjean in Les Mis, but it's kind of changed over to Javert because I can't hit the high notes anymore.
Both great parts.
Absolutely. I happen to find Javert a lot more interesting because he has more of the internal struggle and he's got more meat to the role, whereas Valjean I feel is more of a narrator than an actual character. I love the Shrek musical and I would love to take a shot at playing the lead character in that. I've loved that character since I first saw the DreamWorks pictures, so I've kind of given up on picking ideal roles after those two. If I could get myself in any of the new Star Wars pictures, I would die a happy man. But let's be honest, that's Disney and harder to crack into than Fort Knox. But
right. Now they're talking about premiering this early summer. Are you looking forward to the premiere?
Oh,
Seeing
most
this
definitely.
On the big screen?
Most definitely. It's anyone who's ever been an actor, even however many times they may say I'm done with the business, there is still that little dream in the back of your mind to see yourself on the big screen, and just the ability to do it and have my friends and family come see what I've done. It's just I can't possibly wait for it to come any faster.
Now, if this was premiering right before the premiere of the film, do you have anything to say to the audience right before they watch for the first time this film? Anything about your character? Any last words about the film itself?
Well, if I'm speaking for myself, I would just say I really hope you enjoyed the picture. I read the script and I was absolutely floored by the comedy of it before I ever heard it spoken, and it just got better as soon as the characters were added to it. If I was saying it as Bernie Sharp, I would say make sure you paid at the door and pay again on your way out because, hey, I'm not letting you out if you don't. So that would essentially be the two commentaries I could come up with for premiering the movie.
All right, well, thanks a lot. Looking forward to seeing you there at the premiere.
Most definitely.